Welcome back to From a Black Perspective. Again, good job, man, Robyn and Auntie Renee. Just a light of the story. The comment about the grits, the salt and pepper versus the sugar, but that's another story for another day. And for the record, Auntie Renee is not to be played with. But I'm going to introduce you guys to Dr. Tamara Hill. She has a BA in English from JSU, a MA in Political Science from the University of Central Oklahoma, a MA in English Literature from Grambling State University, and a PhD in Humanities with an English core from the illustrious Clark Atlanta University, and other great accomplishments. Her current research involves Malcolm X, pop culture, and African American biography. She is also a wife, mother, and a professor at 3 institutions of higher learning in the Atlanta metro area. Now we'll listen to her reading.
While music historians are uncertain when All Right, the 4th single from the To Pimp a Butterfly album, became a protest anthem, it is without a doubt declares the resilience of Black people, while at the same time has components of the outcries from James Brown, the turbulent 60s, and the Civil Rights Movement. His echo of Gaye's call for peace and love, all while exposing the heaviness of police violence. And denouncing the stereotypes of Black people that continue to plague the nation as a whole can also be perceived in Lamar's All Right lyrics. According to American Studies and media scholar William Horns, Lamar's progressive music places him in a long line of African-American artists and activists who work both inside and outside of the mainstream to advance a counterculture that opposes the racist stereotypes propagated in white-owned media and culture. As a young Black man who was once a young Black boy on Section 8, Lamar witnessed the escalating tensions in his own drug-infested community amongst gang members, senseless murders, and the overt tactics used by law enforcement that often occurred in his neighborhood. So it was not difficult for him to use and implement the gritty urban verbiage that described the experiences and emotions of most Black people during 2015 and beyond. Even though race relations between Black people and law enforcement from the summer of 2015 to that currently in 2022 have continued to escalate with violent acts and inequality, Lamar, through his lyrics, declares there is hope and that we, as a people, will stand up to these injustices and continue to fight for those whose voices often go unheard. As contemporary hip-hop artist, and from his perspective, Lamar is acknowledging that we are not dependent on a country built on the backs of our enslaved ancestors to make it all right, but to appreciate and understand our struggle as a people and how music has always provided us with a cathartic release for our hurt and or anger. NPR writer Andrew LeBon explained Lamar's inspiration for All Right and why music is important to him by affirming, the author of the upcoming book promised that you will sing about me, the power and poetry of Kendrick Lamar. Lewis interviewed Lamar at the release To Pimp a Butterfly and learned the artist was inspired to write All Right by a trip to South Africa, specifically the cell on Robyn Island where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned. Similarly, Lamar told NPR in a 2015 interview that he was thinking about the history of chattel slavery in this country. 400 years ago, as slaves, we prayed and sung joyful songs to keep our heads level-headed with what was going on, Lamar said. 400 years later, we still need that music to heal. And I think that All Right is definitely one of those records that makes you feel good no matter what the times are. By his own recognition, Lamar provides us insight into his inspiration for All Right. Concerning Black oppression and why the history of it continues to manifest for Black people in the forms of police brutality, the lack of economic opportunities, and the mass incarceration of African Americans at an alarming rate when compared to other ethnicities. Consequently, music, especially Black music, has been a healing force in our communities, and so has our relationship with it. As previously acknowledged by James Brown, Marvin Gaye, and now Lamar, Black grotesque music, whether legendary or contemporary, has the potential to not only heal our people, but also to let the world know that we will not continue to be victimized by our oppressors. Additionally, the music video for All Right received 4 nominations at the 2015 MTV Music Awards, including Video of the Year and Best Male Video, confirmed by the radio station 97.9. However, Lamar only won 2 Grammys that night for Best Rap Performance and Best Rap Song for his song, I. On the contrary, It is the intense and powerful live performance of All Right by Lamar that gave the world a visual representation of what struggle looks like for African Americans who constantly have to deal with racism, white supremacy, and in his words, the popo, at the BET Music Video Awards in 2015. In his live performance on BET on June 28, 2015, with an oversized, battered, and torn American flag, while on top of a police car, Lamar begins his lyrical anthem by chanting the infamous line from the movie The Color Purple, "All's my life, I had to fight." This dialogue occurs in the classic movie with Sophia, played by Oprah Winfrey, declares her independence and refuses to let another man, including her husband, Harpo, brutalize or violate her ever again. In response to the use of Lamar's sample of her work, Alice Walker recounted, "I'm happy for him. I think he's understanding that it is the truth of it, especially for poor people and people of color in this country. We've had to fight all our lives. And it's a good thing that we can talk about it across generations." Lamar's performance was not only a triumph that night on BET in 2015, it was also an exorbitant display of masterful lyrics that were further substantiated by having Black men on stage that were incarcerated. Others walked in a chain gang from the Jim Crow era, which illustrated that despite the madness of racism, white privilege, and oppression, there will always be hope that Black people will prevail and overcome. Scholar Narako Manambi elaborates further about his performance by writing, "More than the lyrics themselves, it is a paratext of visuals in the form of performances and the music that has connected All Right with police brutality." On June 28, 2015, Lamar's caused a controversy at the BET Awards when he performed a song on top of a police car, backed by the enormous projection of a tattered American flag. The symbolism of a police car, conquered by hip-hop graffiti and serving as a stage for African-American star, was evidently too much for Geraldo Rivera, who grumbled on Fox News, "This is why I say hip-hop has done more damage to young African-Americans than racism." Lamar retorted on TMZ that the song was about hope, not hatred, and refocused the problem of reality of police brutality rather than on the way it was being expressed in hip-hop. In contrast to his live performance at various venues, the video for All Right was shot in all black and white, which set the mood for several white policemen carrying a car while a young Black man is lying on the ground. This specific image can be perceived either as pallbearers carrying a coffin or bringing a symbolic death to the Black Lives Matter movement. By the end of the musical narrative, shot and killed by a police officer from a lamppost, but ultimately dies with a subtle smile on his face. As he falls to the ground after being shot to death, he attempts to complete the monologue that he started at the beginning of the video. Whether his lyrics are a masterful wordplay or politically motivated as a member of the hip-hop community, his activism and awareness are evident in the contemporary version of the Black anthem, known as All Right. Reminiscent of the famous We Shall Overcome protest song during the Civil Rights Movement with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Black nationalism of Malcolm X. When we talk about the systematic oppression, white supremacy, and the ultimate deaths of Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, George Floyd, and countless other Black people, mainstream music consistently avoids these issues. However, the chosen one, music consistently known as Kendrick Lamar, has never shied away from taking a stance as an artist and a conscious Black man, similar to much rap and hip-hop. Lamar evokes past events and their surrounding cultural politics as a way of interpreting the present-day issue of colorism in African-American communities. He addresses a history of discrimination shared by Africans and African Americans based in Eurocentric colonial practices. Lamar's engagement relates to the blues matrix because through his music, he reinterprets ancestral experiences of discrimination as a way of understanding the pain caused by racism in the present, according to Hefferman. His words also evoke his memories as a child who grew up in the neighborhood full of gangbangers and crime and with minimal opportunities for survival. Therefore, it is his own self-awareness that is apparent as a foundation for his lyrics, All Right. Because while he knows that he has made it out of the hood, many African Americans, including Lamar, are still struggling to exist in the midst of police violence, systematic oppression, and overt discrimination, the vestiges which remain from slavery. While his lyrics are infused with jazz, African drums, and Afro beats, Lamar provides a definitive narrative of the Black struggle and engaging in political activism with cautious, optimistic backdrop that constantly looms in the background, For example, it was during the multiple protests across the country that the hard-hitting chorus, "We gonna be all right," channeled protesters' rage as they shouted it on the streets. Soon, videos of protesters chanting and thought pieces about the song's connection to the Black Lives Matter movement flooded the internet, according to Gilead. Moreover, the research into Lamar and his inspirations to write such a conscious and resonating song can benefit the systematic study of past artists such as James Brown and Marvin Gaye to contemporary artists and their protest and resistance music. Alternatively, we as a society can formulate a psychological analysis of Kendrick Lamar as an activist and his compositions in relation to the perceptual, sentimental, and social responses to the contemporary anthem, All Right. From either perspective, the rap song is and has remained a part of pivotal moments in 2015 for Black history and American tragedies. Senyah Joseph avows, All Right is a song that moves beyond Kendrick Lamar's personal tragedy, directing his words to be relevant to the larger context of the Black Lives Matter movement. According to Cone, the important contribution of the blues is their affirmation of Black humanity in the face of immediate absurdity. All Right is used as a protest song that affirms Black humanity in the context of police killing. The statement from Senyah captures All Right's necessity and validity as an anthem for Black Lives Matter movement and the continued struggle that Black people face every day of their lives in a place where all humans are allegedly equal. Then there's Lamar's fourth album release, Damn, in 2017, the most significant production of his career to date because it's garnered him a Pulitzer Prize for music. The album, according to music historians, won Best Rap Album, and it's the first of its kind to win a Pulitzer Prize despite it not being jazz or non-classical work. Lamar was bestowed this honor on April 16, 2018. According to History.com, it affirms that it was the first time the award had gone to a musical work outside the genres of classical music and jazz, a watershed moment for the Pulitzers and Lamar and a sign of the American cultural elite's recognition of hip-hop as a legitimate artistic medium. No other artist in hip-hop genre or history has received this exceptional award for their lyrical compositions. However, one can firmly disagree that Lamar winning it made him legitimate. To clarify this perception, the chosen one was an established, introspective, talented, and observant Black rapper from Compton, already crowned as a messiah by the hip-hop world long before the Pulitzer Prize Board decided to characterize him as being legitimate. Even with this prestigious award, Lamar has remained humble, coincidentally, the name of one of his hit singles from the Damn album, because he continued to produce effectual, conscious music, also found in the Black Panther soundtrack, where he is credited for writing 14 of his compositions. Over the course of 4 albums, Lamar has been awarded 13 Grammys. He's only trailing behind Jay-Z and Kanye West, both of whom have won 24 apiece. But music historians feel it will not be long before the chosen one surpasses them at some point in his career. However, when asked about his activism, his music, and his perception and his audacity to have hope that the Black struggle will eventually overcome, Kendrick responds by saying in an interview with Inosol Ahmad, I have a greater purpose, he says. God put something in my heart to get across. And that's what I'm going to focus on, using my voice as an instrument and doing what he needs to be done. What James Brown, Marvin Gaye, and contemporary artist Kendrick Lamar have done with their voices, self-awareness, and lyrical compositions have proven that as Black artists, they were and are aware of what's going on. And that did not stand, and they did not stand by and do nothing as they observed their people going through the struggle of white supremacy, racism, discrimination, and a plethora of societal ills that continue to hammer this country based on the atrocity from the past. What's more, even though Brown and Gaye were not politicians or Baptist ministers like Dr. King, they also experienced discrimination, police brutality, and overt racist acts of segregation as young Black boys who grew up in Washington, D.C. and Augusta, Georgia. Then their experiences were repetitive in the music industry, not being allowed to eat in restaurants with white people, being followed by the KKK, or seeing the multiple colored only signs on buildings that they could only enter from the back as young men who were traveling the country on tour buses. As a result, these social experiences and the political stances are fully verbalized in Brown's Say It Loud and Gaye's What's Going On, as interpretive anthems from 2 legendary Black men who refused to let civil unrest go unnoticed, whereas Lamar, a contemporary artist born decades after Brown and Gaye, utilizes the lyrical thesis of All Right, not to spread hate, as Geraldo Rivera alleged, but to remind Black people that the struggle has not ended because we are still here, and in the words of Dr. King, we shall overcome. In closing, we must certainly thank James Brown, Marvin Gaye, and Kendrick Lamar for their contributions to the genre of protest music and resistance.
We want to thank Dr. Tamara Hill for that amazing read. Coming from a musical background, I know us as African Americans use music to express our feelings, and then it's an expression of who we are. And the music back then and in this day and time, it kind of speaks to what we deal with on the day-to-day basis, especially with police brutality, oppression, racism. So I applaud Kendrick Lamar and Marvin Gaye and James Brown for standing up for what they believe in. Being an artist, sometimes we get boggled down with so many things that goes on in our community, and having a purpose behind that gift. You need to make sure that you're changing someone's life in a positive, in a positive way. We can take it, a perception of what the music really is, but the story behind, the artist's gift and their music speaks a lot of, what they're feeling. So we do thank again Dr. Tamara Hill for that amazing read, and we're going to take a commercial break.
This is Phil Esteem, founder of the Esteem Awards. Since 2007, the Esteem Awards has honored local and national organizations and individuals for their continued support and service of the African American and LGBTQ plus communities in the areas of entertainment, media, civil rights, business, and the arts. This year, July 1st, 2023, we will be hosting our free event from 1 to 3 p.m. at Sidetrack in Chicago. That address is 3349 North Holsted. Now, while we're waiting to obtain our funding from our various sources, we find it necessary to have this GoFundMe campaign. I hope that you will support us by giving us whatever you can to support our marketing, banners, setup fees for the awards. And remember, every little bit counts. You can visit GoFundMe.com/F as in Frank /16th Annual Esteem Awards. Thank you, and may God bless you.